got these folks over here who ain't commenting on the game and talking about somebody a clown. Has Nick Wright ever looked in the mirror? I bet you if you look in the dictionary right now and you look up a clown, you're gonna see two things. One, it's gonna be somebody with some long hair on the sides and a big ass nose. Yep, that's Nick Wright, a clown in itself. He's been a clown ever since I knew him, and I know his tag team buddy too. Yes, Gritlock. He looks like a clown too, puffy cheeks and a big round nose and a big belly to match. Yes, I'm calling them all out. They all clowns.
Lavar Ball just showed up, and Nick Wright did not see it coming. Word got back to the patriarch, and when Lavar Ball hears someone disrespect one of his sons on national television, he doesn't send a text, he doesn't drop a tweet, he confronts you. And that's exactly what happened. Things got so heated, so fast, that people on the scene were saying it almost turned physical. And here's the part that nobody's fully talking about. LaMelo was there. So before you scroll past this thinking it's just another media beef, understand? This is a father, a legend, and a franchise player, all in the same room, with years of unfinished business on the table. Let me break down every single piece of this story, because if you don't know the full history between Nick Wright and this family, you are missing everything. Let's start with what actually happened, because the details matter. Nick Wright, FS1 host of First Things First, went on air after LaMelo Ball's play-in game against the Miami Heat and did not hold back. He looked dead into the camera and said, "That young man is a clown and has been a clown forever and will never not be a clown."
But the bigger story to me is, and I'm not sorry, and I don't care if this gets clipped, that young man is a clown and has been a clown forever and will never not be a clown.
Not a bad play, not a dirty foul, a clown. Personally, that clip went nuclear on social media within hours, and word, as it always does, got back to Lavar Ball. Now here's where it escalates. Lavar didn't just respond on a podcast from his living room and call it a day. Sources close to the situation say Lavar made it a point to get in front of Nick Wright directly, and when he did, things got intense. The kind of intense where people in the vicinity said they weren't sure if it was going to stay verbal. LaMelo was reportedly present, standing right there, while his father went head-to-head with the man who had just called him a clown on national TV. Think about that image for a second. Lavar Ball, LaMelo Ball, Nick Wright, the same space, real tension. Lavar, to nobody's surprise, didn't soften his tone when the cameras weren't rolling. The man who once told the world he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one wasn't about to back down from a sports commentator with a perm. And to his credit, Nick Wright didn't run either. He stood on what he said, at least initially. But here's the question everyone should be asking. Why did Wright go this hard in the first place? Because if you think this was just about one ankle grab in a play-in game, you don't know this story. Let's go back to the night this all started. April 14th, 2026. Charlotte Hornets versus Miami Heat, play-in tournament. Everything is on the line. LaMelo Ball is the story of the game. 30 points, 10 assists, the game-winning layup in overtime. An absolute performance. The Hornets survive 127-126 in one of the most electric play-in games in recent memory. But that's not what people were talking about the next morning. In the first half, with the Heat season hanging in the balance, LaMelo grabbed Bam Adebayo's ankle, mid-air, mid-rebound, and yanked it. Bam came crashing down hard onto his lower back and tailbone. He never came back. Miami lost their best player before halftime, and they ultimately lost the game in overtime. Now, was it intentional? That's debatable, but the NBA didn't treat it as an accident. They retroactively slapped LaMelo with a flagrant 2 foul and a $60,000 fine after the fact. Miami's head coach Eric Spoelstra was heated, saying LaMelo should have been ejected on the spot and calling it a stupid and dangerous play.
I didn't see it, but I don't think it's cute. I don't think it's funny. I think it's a stupid play. It's a dangerous play. Obviously, our best player is out.
That's the spark, but Nick Wright didn't just criticize the play. He used it as a detonator for everything he'd been sitting on about LaMelo for years, and that's what made Lavar snap. Here's what most people are missing about this entire situation, and it's the key to understanding why the confrontation hit differently. Nick Wright and the Ball family go back, way back. It's 2017. LaMelo Ball is 16 years old, still in high school, not even a draft prospect yet by conventional standards. Nick Wright is doing a Q&A on Twitter, and somebody asks him, "Where do you see LaMelo and LiAngelo Ball in 3 to 6 years?" Wright's answer? He was rooting for both brothers, but when it came to LaMelo specifically, he didn't think the kid had what it took to make it to the NBA. Let that land. He wrote off LaMelo Ball, at 16 years old, as someone who wouldn't reach the highest level of professional basketball. Now fast forward. LaMelo goes 3rd overall in the 2020 draft. He wins Rookie of the Year. He makes the All-Star team. He becomes the face of the Charlotte Hornets franchise on a $200 million extension. And the internet, because the internet never forgets, dug up that exact tweet the second Wright's clown comments went viral. So when Lavar said on his Big Baller podcast that Wright has been a clown ever since he knew him, he wasn't just talking about this week, he was talking about years of dismissal, years of doubt, years of a guy on national television treating his son like a punchline before LaMelo had even played a single minute of professional basketball. That's not a media spat, that's a grudge. And Lavar had ammunition of his own. He went line for line on Wright's appearance, his credibility, his co-workers. He said that if you look up clown in the dictionary, you'd find a picture of Nick Wright, long hair on the sides, big nose. He even dragged Jason Whitlock into it, giving him the nickname Gritlock and roasting him in the same breath. Then Lonzo Ball jumped in from the sideline on X, posting Nick Wright a bum with a clown emoji. Wright clapped back saying those were his natural curls, thank you very much. And suddenly, the whole thing had turned into a full family affair. Now, let's be real. Even in the middle of all this chaos, Nick Wright wasn't entirely wrong. And that's actually what makes this more complicated. Wright's criticism wasn't just built on one play. He constructed a case. Think about LaMelo's season leading up to this moment. February 2026. LaMelo is driving his custom Hummer through uptown Charlotte and collides with a Kia sedan at one of the busiest intersections in the city. One person suffers minor injuries. Video surfaces appearing to show LaMelo swerving into the other car's lane before impact.
Tonight we are learning more about that crash in Uptown involving Hornets player LaMelo Ball.
A new video and witness accounts tonight are shedding light on what led up to the collision and the moments afterwards when one person emerged from that scene injured.
He walks away from the wreck, hops into a Lamborghini that pulls up within minutes, and leaves. No criminal charges, no public statement from LaMelo or the Hornets organization. Charlotte residents weren't even that surprised. Multiple people on social media who live in the city said LaMelo driving recklessly through Charlotte wasn't new information. It was almost routine. A compiled video of his driving behavior circulated online, and the reaction from locals was basically, yeah, that sounds about right. Then you factor in the game itself against the Heat. LaMelo went 2 for 16 from 3. He committed a costly turnover and foul that almost gave Miami the game in the final seconds. He grabbed Bam's ankle and knocked him out, and then he hit the game winner all in the same night. Wright's point was essentially this: LaMelo Ball has every tool in the world: talent, athleticism, vision, charisma, and he consistently undermines all of it with choices that suggest someone who has never truly been held accountable. He called it out as a pattern, not a moment. His co-host Chris Broussard pushed back. The internet pushed back, but Wright didn't flinch, at least not at first. He went on X and doubled down, saying he doesn't know the last time he went scorched earth on a player like this. But after intentionally injuring a superstar and playing one of the most erratic elimination games in recent memory, he wasn't backing down. Eventually, after the confrontation, Wright softened the word. He offered wildly immature man-child as a substitute for clown if people preferred, but he kept the critique intact. Lavar wasn't the only one who felt the heat from Wright's comments. Raymond Felton, former NBA guard, Charlotte Hornets legend, came out and addressed the situation directly, saying that as a father, Wright's tone crossed a line. When criticism stops being about basketball and starts being about someone's character as a person, that's when it gets personal for everyone connected to that player. Eric Spoelstra didn't help the temperature either. Miami's head coach called out LaMelo's play publicly after the loss, saying his team might have won had Bam stayed healthy and that the play deserved an ejection. Lavar fired back at Spoelstra too, telling him to stop making excuses and just accept the loss. The reality? The Hornets won. LaMelo hit the game winner, and now Charlotte lives on to fight for the 8th seed. But here's the thing about this whole saga that nobody wants to say out loud. LaVar Ball being loud, being confrontational, being in people's faces, that works for this family. Every time someone doubts a ball, every time someone puts them in a box, LaVar turns up the volume and the story grows. LaMelo has spent his entire career proving people like Nick Wright wrong. The 2017 tweet, the draft skeptics, the people who said he was too flashy, too reckless, too much of a showman to be a real franchise player, and every single time, LaMelo answered on the court. So here's where everything stands. Nick Wright went on national television and called a 24-year-old man who just hit a game-winning shot in a playoff elimination game a clown. LaVar Ball found out. LaVar Ball showed up. LaMelo was in the room. things nearly got physical, and now the entire basketball world is picking sides. But zoom out for a second and look at what this moment actually represents. LaMelo Ball is at a crossroads. He has the talent to be a top 5 point guard in this league. The ceiling is limitless, but the pattern of behavior that Nick Wright described, the recklessness on the street, the inconsistency on the court, the lack of accountability, that's a real conversation. Not a clown conversation, a growth conversation. And whether Lavar likes it or not, someone was eventually going to say it out loud. Now the question is, does LaMelo use this as fuel, or does he let the noise consume him? If history tells us anything about this family, they use everything as fuel. What do you think? Was Nick Wright out of line calling LaMelo a clown, or did he have a point that nobody else had the guts to make? And was Lavar right to confront him directly, or did that just give Wright more power? Drop your take in the comments, and if you're not subscribed yet, you already know what to do, because this story is nowhere close to being over.